let us briefly discuss with respect to the set question paper in terms of the analysis with respect to the objective type question paper that is set. Which of the following are included in the basic structure of the Constitution? This is something, the basic structure is something which is not referred to in the Constitution. It is a later addition because of the radical judiciary which has brought basic structure to protect the Constitution. Essentially, basic structure limits the power of the Parliament in terms of the law enactment. So here we have three options. Which of the following are included in the basic structure of the Constitution? Welfare state, judicial review, federal character of the Constitution. Basic structure is something not clearly defined by the judiciary itself, but as and when judiciary has been approached with respect to the basic structure, the Supreme Court, through its various pronouncements, started adding the list to the basic structure. So in this context, it tried to preserve the freedom of the Parliament to enact the Constitution or to make amendments to the Constitution, but also judiciary to a large extent tried to maintain self-restraint. So basic structure helps in promoting separation of powers. So here the options 3 are given: welfare state, which means socio-economic justice; judicial review, reviewing the laws that are enacted by the Parliament, whether they comply with the spirit of the Constitution or not; and the federal structure, federal character of the Constitution. So all these three are part of the basic structure, and the answer is 1, 2 and 3. Which among these legislations of the Parliament of the United Kingdom effectively legitimize the election of Indians to the various legislative councils in India for the first time? When you look at the rise of Indian national movement, the Indian national movement, actually the Indian freedom struggle movement began post 1857. And subsequently in 1861, for the first time, Indians were nominated to the Legislative Council. Thereafter in 1892, part of the Legislative Council comprised of members indirectly elected by the local bodies, universities, etc. But actual direct representation to the Legislative Council occurred only through 1909 Act, which made specific provision for the direct election of the members to the Legislative Council. Here, Indian Council Act 1892, Indian Council Act 1861 and Government of India Act 1858 does not extend this direct franchise for the members to get elected. Hence, the answer is D, none of the above. Third question, which of the following constitutes the fundamental duties under Article 51A of the Constitution? To protect monuments, places and objects of artistic or historic interest which are declared to be of national importance, to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture, to develop scientific temper and to abjure violence, to pay taxes, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Among these available alternates, 2, 3 and 5 have a specific mention in the fundamental duties. And the option 1, to protect monuments, places and objects of artistic or historic interest which are declared to be of national importance, this is essentially the fundamental duty which is inferred under to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. Since 2, 4, 5 also include 1, and since 1 is not expressed as one of the alternate options, so we have to go with 2, 3, 5 as the alternate. Hence, the choice B is the appropriate answer. Following are the statements regarding Article 1 of the Constitution. Article 19 of the Constitution. The right to carry on a business and include the right to close it at any time the owner likes. The right to information is implicit under the freedom of expression under Article 19. The movement of habitual offenders and prostitutes can be restricted. If you examine the freedoms that are incorporated into the Constitution, we have two sets of freedoms. Freedoms under 19 and freedoms under 21. Freedoms under 19 are regulated by the restrictions imposed within the Constitution itself under Article 19. And freedom under 21 can only be restricted through the procedure established by law. That means through a parliament law, freedoms under 21 can be restricted. So here, since it deals with the freedom under Article 19, all three are part of it. So the right to carry on a business also includes the right to close it any time the owner likes. And the second option, the right to information, is implicit under the freedom of expression, because Article 19 deals with right to freedom of speech and expression, and information is part of freedom of expression or freedom of press. So hence it is also part of Article 19. And the third, the Supreme Court also ruled that habitual offenders and prostitutes can be restricted. Hence all three are part of Article 19, the freedoms under Article 19. So 1, 2, 3 is the answer, that is answer 4. Fifth question, which of the following is correct about the basic structure of the Indian Constitution? Hence again the basic structure, because basic structure has no reference in the Constitution. So it has to be something which is inferred, not given. The basic structure of the Constitution is mentioned in the Constitution. It is not. The basic structure of the Constitution can be abrogated by a constitutional amendment. Secularism is part of the basic structure of the Constitution, none of the above. The basic structure of the Constitution cannot be amended by the constitutional amendment. And none of the above also is not the appropriate answer. Here the answer is secularism is part of the basic structure of the Constitution, because Supreme Court through its pronouncement under S.R. Bommai case, it has adjudged that secularism is the fabric, fundamental fabric that promotes fraternity in the society. So hence secularism cannot be abrogated. So it has recognized secularism as part of the basic structure post Babri Masjid demolition. Sixth question deals with which of the following statements is not correct regarding the Indian Council Act 1909, which is not correct. Non-official members are in majority in legislative councils at the center. Non-official means the Indians who are elected. So this is not true. For the first time, separate representation for the Muslim community was introduced. This is in fact true. The Governor General was empowered to nominate one Indian member to his executive council. This is also true. And none of the above. So the answer is non-official members are in majority in legislative council at the center. This is not the right answer, because which of the following statements is not correct? It maintained official majority at the center. Hence the option A is the right answer. Consider the following statements. Fundamental rights are extended to only citizens. Fundamental duties are extended to both citizens and foreigners. Which of the following statements is correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2 only, neither 1 and 2 only. Here the appropriate answer is neither 1 and 2 only, because fundamental rights, if not all, but fundamental rights are also extended to citizens and non-citizens or foreigners or aliens. Similarly, fundamental duties are extended to both citizens and foreigners. This is also wrong. So hence the answer for this particular question number 7 would be neither 1 nor 2. Consider the 8th question. Consider the statement regarding the proposed Citizenship Bill 2016. The bill aims at providing Indian citizenship to all persecuted minorities of Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. This is in fact true. The proposed act is being enacted by the Parliament in exercise of powers conferred to it under Article 11 of the Constitution. Both the statements are true because Citizenship Act deals with Article 5 to Article 11. Article 5 provides for ordinary circumstances through which citizenship can be acquired, that is by birth. Article 6 and 7 provides for extraordinary circumstances through which citizenship can be acquired, that is by descent. And Article 11 categorically states that the Parliament is empowered to make amendments to the Citizenship Act. So here, statement 1, the Citizenship Act, which is recently brought forward by the NDA government to provide citizenship to persecuted minorities. Persecuted minorities are those minorities who have been suffering post Babri Masjid demolition in the respective Muslim dominated countries such as Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So the government of India wants to extend Indian citizenship to the persecuted minorities. Persecuted minorities means non-Muslims. So both the statements are true. 9th question. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to the idea of independence of judiciary? When we look at the judiciary, judiciary demands independence. Independence of judiciary relies on separation of power is essential for independence of judiciary. For the protection of fundamental rights, independence of judiciary is necessary. The legislature and executive cannot interfere in the work of judiciary. Here in this case, all the statements are true. There cannot be interference of executive into judiciary. Article 51 clearly states this. For the protection of fundamental rights, Article 13 Clause 2 essentially maintains judicial review to preserve, promote, safeguard the fundamental rights, and the separation of power is essential character for the independence of judiciary. All the three statements are true. Which of the following provisions are provided by Montego-Chelford reforms? The system of diarchy at the center. This is a false statement. System of diarchy is introduced at the provinces. The central legislature was empowered to enact laws on any matter for the whole of India. This statement is in fact true. The subject of administration were divided into two categories, central and provincial. This is also a true statement. A bicameral legislature consisting of upper house and lower house at the center. So 2, 3, 4 is the right answer. So option B is the right answer with respect to question number 10. Question number 11. Which of the following amendments are related to fundamental duties? The fundamental duties are incorporated into the Constitution in two phases. One on the recommendation of Sardar Swaran Singh Committee. So 42nd Constitutional Amendment incorporated 10 fundamental duties. Thereafter, under the recommendation of Verma Committee report, 11th fundamental duty was also added much later in 1986. So this is something to do with Article 51A of the Constitution. Hence, 42nd and 86th Constitutional Amendment, in fact, deal with the fundamental duties under Part 4A of the Constitution dealing with Article 51A. So the right answer is 1 and 3. Twelfth question. Identify the correct statements for the following. Directive principles of state policy cannot be implemented. When martial law is imposed, the ordinary courts of law are suspended. The first conflict between the fundamental rights and directive principles came to the fore in the Champakam Dorai Rajan case. In fact, Keshavanand Bharati states that directive principles also carry equal force. Hence, the basic structure document came. So, directive principles of state policy cannot be implemented is a false statement, because socio-economic rights are not provided as part of the fundamental rights because of paucity of funds and because of the sensitive nature of the society. These are the two aspects which made the Constitutional Assembly to postpone including them as part of the fundamental rights. Otherwise, they are essentially in the nature of implementable policies. So they are instrument of instructions to the government. Hence, they are implementable. So they cannot be implemented is the wrong choice. So here the appropriate choice is 2 and 3. Which of the following is not the component of the basic structure of the Constitution? Effective access to justice, rule of law, principles of reasonableness. When you look at this, in particular this question, the answer is none of the above. Because basic structure deals with the access to justice, basic structure deals with rule of law. Without rule of law, Constitution is unthinkable, and principles of reasonableness. This is also added as part of due process clause. So all three are essentially the components of the basic structure. So the choice is none of the above. 14th question deals with consider the following statements regarding the interim government of India formed in 1946. The members of the interim government were members of the Viceroy's Executive Council. Jawaharlal Nehru was designated as the Vice President of the Council. Ambedkar was Minister of Law. It was formed from the newly elected Constituent Assembly. Here all four statements are true, excepting Ambedkar's choice. Ambedkar became a law minister after he was chosen to the interim government after 1946, not in 1946. Hence the right answer would be 1, 2 and 4 minus Ambedkar's inclusion. Select the correct statement with respect to the fundamental duties. They serve as a source of inspiration for the citizens and promote a sense of discipline. They are enforceable by law. They establish a democratic balance by making the people conscious of their rights, of their duties equally as they are conscious of their rights. Here they are non-enforceable by law. Hence the right option as far as duty is concerned, they serve as a source of inspiration for the citizens and promote a sense of discipline. And second, they establish a democratic balance by making the people conscious of their duties equally as they are conscious of their rights. Because rights and duties correlate to each other. You cannot have rights without duties, or you cannot have duties without rights. When you talk in terms of duties and rights, because rights are in the nature of things that can be known and duties are in the nature of things that can be performed. You cannot enjoy rights alone, ignoring the duties that is responsible to make this life, to make these rights more appropriate. So hence the choice is 1 and 3. So hence the 15th question, the answer is select the correct statements with respect to the fundamental duty. They serve as a source of inspiration for the citizens and promote a sense of discipline. They establish a democratic balance by making the people conscious of their duties equally as they are conscious of their rights. So 1 and 3 is the answer, C. 16th question, it deals with Balaji Raghavan case is associated with freedom of expression, right to equality, the supremacy of certain directive principles over the fundamental rights, and abolition of titles. Here the appropriate answer is under Article 918, the abolition of titles. And the 17th question deals with Indian preamble declares India as a sovereign nation. What are the consequences of this? When we talk about sovereignty, sovereignty means unrestricted power internally, sovereign equality externally. The first statement speaks, there is no authority above India and is free to conduct its own affairs. This in fact is true. By joining United Nations, India ceded its sovereignty. We have not ceded our sovereignty. In fact, we moved into a situation where we try to create a world federation through a shared sovereignty. It is not a ceding of sovereignty. So the option is Choice A. Consider the following: August offer, Cripps mission, Cabinet mission, Simon Commission, Communal Award. Identify the correct chronological order. Here the option is Simon Commission first. Simon Commission was constituted as a statutory commission to examine the functioning of the 1919 Government of India Act. This commission was expected to be appointed after a decade because, owing to the political pressure, the British government constituted the commission 2 years in advance. Then it is followed by Communal Award, where post roundtable conference in 1932, when Ambedkar vociferously appealed to uplift the marginalized, especially the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in India, by guaranteeing them political participation, the British government came with Communal Award. So this occurred in 1932. Thereafter we have the August offer, wherein it proposed a dominion status. Then comes the Cripps mission. Then finally the Cabinet mission, which helped in the creation of the Constituent Assembly. Which of the following is not a fundamental duty? To abide by the Constitution and respect its flags, its ideals and institutions, the national flag, national song and national anthem. Duty to vote in election, to cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the national struggle for freedom, to develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. 3 and 4 have a specific reference in the fundamental duties itself, and among the 1 and 2 choice, we don't have a fundamental duty as part of duty to vote in elections, but the Constitution has in fact promoted to respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag, national song and national anthem, but national song is not part of it. Hence, 1 and 2 are incorrect, 3 and 4 are the correct choice. Then coming to the 20th question, identify correct statements regarding the right to freedom of religion. The Supreme Court ruled that cow slaughter during Bakrid was not an essential practice of Islam in Muhammad Hanif Qureshi case. The right to freedom of religion implies the right to convert others into a religion. There is nothing like a right to convert. Conversion has to be voluntary, without being allured by either financial gain or any other malpractice. So voluntary conversion is promoted or recognized as far as the Constitution is concerned. There is no recognized right to convert. Hence, the only answer is, as far as question number 20 relates, the choice 1, only 1. What are the different ways through which people participate in the democratic process? Contributing money to political parties or candidates? Of course they do. And in fact, very recently we have also brought in electoral reforms to help people contribute transparently through electoral bonds, attending political meetings and discussing issues. This is also part of the political atmosphere or environment that the people can engage in, demonstrating support via marches, rallies and other forms of support. So all three are part of people's participation in the democratic process. Hence, the option would be all of the above. 22 question. From which among the following constitutions the provision of rule of law was borrowed into the Indian Constitution? French Constitution, United States Constitution, British Constitution, Japanese Constitution. Indian Constitution is 70% comprises of the Government of India Act 1935. And Government of India Act 1935 is enacted by the British Parliament. And rule of law has come into force through the British parliamentary practice. Hence, rule of law was borrowed into the Indian Constitution and it has become integral part of the Indian Constitution through the Government of India Act 1935. So, the right choice is British Constitution. Fundamental duties of the Indian Constitution are derived from which of the following constitutions? Duties, fundamental duties. are derived from which of the constitutions? We have borrowed fundamental rights from America, because as far as America is concerned, liberty is more important. We have borrowed rule of law and parliamentary system from United Kingdom. We have borrowed emergency provisions from Germany, and we have borrowed the fundamental duties from Russia. Hence the choice is 23rd, answer B. The 24th question. Which of the following does not fall under the definition of state under Article 12 of the Constitution? Because 12 to 35 deal with fundamental rights, wherein 12 defines the definition of state, which all include as part of the state. State includes the union government, state includes the state government, state includes the local governments. Apart from that, Article 12 also defines state includes Life Insurance Corporation of India, Airports Authority of India, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation of India, which are considered as statutory bodies, but it does not have any reference for Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. So the option is C. The Election Commission of India is concerned with which of the following elections? Election to the Lok Sabha, election to the Vidhan Sabha, election to the Panchayats and municipalities. The Election Commission of India primarily is engaged in the election to the conduct of elections to the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Elections to the local bodies is the duty of the State Election Commission. 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment have specifically made arrangement for the creation of State Election Commission to conduct periodic elections to the local bodies. Hence, the option here is 1 and 2, that is answer B. 26th question. Consider the following statements. William Bentinck was made the first Governor General of India after the implementation of the Charter Act of 1833. It is the wrong answer. Indian Legislative Council was established by Pitt's India Act. It is also a wrong answer. Open competition for civil servants was introduced by British through the Charter Act of 1853. This is the right answer. Macaulay Committee is related to civil services. So here, when we look at the exam in the choices, what we have is 1 only, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4 and all are correct. Here, William Bentinck was made the first Governor General of India. This is true. Indian Council Act was established by Pitt's India Act. This is false. Open competition for civil servants was introduced by British through the Charter Act. This is true. Macaulay Committee is related to civil services. This is also true. Even Macaulay Committee is also involved in the legal commission. Hence the choice is 1, 3, 4 minus 2. So C is the appropriate answer. Match the following. Fundamental rights are part of the part 3 of the Constitution. Fundamental duties are part 4A of the Constitution. Citizenship is dealt with under part 2 of the Constitution, and the Union and its territory is handled under the part 1 of the Constitution. And the sequence would be A3, B4, C2 and D1. That is, C is the right answer. Identify correct statements from the following. Writ petitions can be issued against all the organs of the state. Writ of randomness can be issued against the Board of Control for Cricket in India. Writs are in the nature of grievance redressal. Writs can be issued by the Supreme Court against the legislature and the executive. But Supreme Court cannot issue writs against its own authority. So Supreme Court cannot issue writs to its own bench. Hence, writs are not applicable to the higher judiciary, but writs are applicable to the lower judiciary, especially with respect to the subordinate courts. Hence, the answer, then the option is neither 1 nor 2. 29th question. Consider the following statements with respect to the Election Commission. The removal of Chief Election Commissioner is similar to that of Judge of the Supreme Court. The service conditions of the Chief Election Commission can be varied to his advantage after his appointment. The second statement is incorrect. Select the correct answer using the code below. So the only option is statement 1, which is correct. So answer is 29A. 30th question. Consider the following. Satyendra Prasad Sinha is the first Indian to join Viceroy's Executive Council. This in fact is true. Minto Morley reforms provided separate representation to Jamindars. This is a false statement. Lord Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of India. Lord Canning became the first Viceroy of India. Among the given options, which of the above statements are incorrect? Which of the above statements are incorrect? Satyendra Sinha is the first one. This is in fact true statements. Minto Morley reforms provided separate representation to Jamindars. This is a wrong statement. Lord Canning became the first Viceroy of India. This is also a true statement. Lord Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of India. Here the choice 2. Minto Morley reforms only provided for separate electorate to the Muslims, not to the Jamindars. And the second is Lord Warden Hastings was the first Governor General of India. This is also a wrong statement because William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. Swaran Singh Committee was set up in 1976 to make recommendations about. Just now we discussed Swaran Singh Committee was constituted during emergency because of the growing unrest across India. So Swaran Singh Committee was constituted to identify fundamental duties for the citizens of India, which was otherwise not part of the original constitution. So based on the recommendations of the Swaran Singh Committee, fundamental duties were incorporated into the constitution under Part 4A of the constitution in 1976 through 42nd Constitutional Amendment. Following are the statements about the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Act 2016. The Act has completely banned employment of children below 14 years in all occupations and enterprises except those run by his or her own family. This is in fact a true statement. The Act has a provision of creating rehabilitation fund for the rehabilitation of the children. It defines children between 14 to 18 years as adolescents. Among these, question number 32, the right choice is the Act has completely banned employment of children below 13. It is a wrong statement because it has promoted people can work in their family enterprise. The Act has a provision of creating rehabilitation fund. This is also not true. It defines children between age 14 to 18 years as adolescent. None of these is the answer. So hence answer D. Which of the following statements are incorrect with respect to preamble of Indian Constitution? The preamble is a prohibition on the powers of the legislature. This is incorrect. The preamble is not part of the Constitution. This is also not correct. Keshavanand Bharati case recognized preamble as part of the Constitution. Preamble cannot be amended as it is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Select the correct answer using the code below. The preamble is a prohibition on the powers of the legislature because preamble provides a direction through which the Constitution should run. It is the basic. It provides the basic philosophy of the Constitution, and the basic philosophy of the Constitution is social justice. Second, the preamble is not part of the Constitution, which are incorrect. And the third, preamble cannot be amended as it is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. So preamble is amended. 3 words are incorporated into preambles: socialist, secular, and integrity through 42nd Constitutional Amendment. So the right choice as far as answer 33 is concerned, 1, 2 and 3. The Government of India Act 1919 provided communal representation to 6 Indian Christians and Anglo-Indians. 34, the answer is all of the above. The Government of India provided reservations to all. Consider the following statements. Fundamental duties. Direct the citizens of India to promote brotherhood among all the people. Feeling of fraternity is promoted by the Constitution using the system of single citizenship. (35). And with respect to 35, the answer is both 1 and 2. Because Indian citizenship is not recognized based on territory. Indian citizenship is based on nationality. So it promotes fraternity. And as part of the fundamental duties, there is also a provision, fundamental duties, directing the citizens of India to promote brotherhood among all the people. So the right answer is C, both 1 and 2. Which of the following rights can be suspended during national emergency? The right to privacy, the right to travel abroad, the freedom of profession, right to decent environment. Among these choices, right to privacy is part of Article 21, which cannot be suspended. Right to travel abroad is part of Article 21, which cannot be suspended. Right to decent environment is also as part of the Article 21. Right to life, which cannot be suspended. Only freedom of profession is as part of Article 19, hence which can be suspended. During emergency, Article 20 and Article 21 cannot be suspended, and Article 19 can be suspended. Hence, the right option is freedom of profession, C. Which of the following statements is incorrect with respect to Niti Aayog? Niti Aayog was established by the Parliament of India, that is a statutory body. It is a wrong statement. The Governing Council comprises of Chief Minister of all states, Chief Ministers of Union Territories, with legislatures, that is Delhi and Puducherry, and Lieutenant Governors of Union Territories. C. Niti Aayog is chaired by the Prime Minister of India. D. The Chief Executive Officer is appointed by the Prime Minister for a fixed tenure in the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. In this, the first option is, the incorrect option is A. Niti Aayog was established by an executive order. According to the Government of India, Act of 1935, the correct statement would be, diarchy was abolished at the center. Diarchy was proposed to be introduced, not abolished. Introduced bicameralism in all the provinces. Provisions for the establishment of RBI, Federal Public Service Commission and Federal Court. Residuary powers were given to the central legislature. In fact, the correct answer is D. Residuary powers were not given to the central legislature. Residuary powers remain with the Viceroy. (39) Which of the following is not correct? 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act laid down 11 fundamental duties for citizens of India. It has laid down only 10. This is incorrect. Part 4 of the Constitution is related to directive principles of state policy. This is correct. Fundamental duties are not justiciable under the Constitution. This is correct. Article 51A of the Constitution specifies 11 fundamental duties. This is also correct. The wrong choice is 39. Hence, answer A. 40th question. Identify correct statements vis-a-vis the writ jurisdiction of courts in cases related to the fundamental rights of the personnel belonging to the armed forces. The writ jurisdiction of the high courts is excluded automatically. The writ jurisdiction of the high courts remains unless taken away by the law of parliament. The writ jurisdiction of the high court remains unless taken away by the law of the state legislature. The writ jurisdiction of the high court depends on the order passed by the court martial. Here, the only alternate most appropriate is the writ jurisdiction of the high court remains unless taken away by the law of parliament, because state legislatures have no role to do. Parliament can either enhance or shrink the responsibility of the high court, that we have already seen by the inclusion of Article 323A and Article 323B, by creating administrative tribunals separately, undermining the authority and power of the high courts. Hence, the Parliament has got exclusive power to redraw the powers of the high court. Hence, it is the most appropriate answer would be answer B. Consider the following statements with respect to the Attorney General of India. He can attend the proceedings of the Parliament and can vote. He cannot vote, he can attend the proceedings of the Parliament. He can be nominated as a member of any committee of the Parliament. He has the right of audience in all courts of India. This is also a true statement. So, accepting the first statement where he can participate in the proceedings of the parliament, but he cannot participate in the vote. So, the first statement is incorrect. He can be nominated as a member of any committee of the parliament. This is a true statement. And he has the right of audience in all courts in India. This is also a true statement. So, 2 and 3 is correct. So, hence the right choice is B. Jawaharlal Nehru introduced the Historic Objectives Resolution in the Constituent Assembly. Its modified version is the basis of the Historic Objective Resolution. Later on, it was added to the Constitution as preamble to the Constitution. Hence, the choice is 42nd answer C. For 43rd question, consider the following statements. The Supreme Court of India included fundamental duties as part of the basic structure of the Constitution in the Keshavanand Bharati case. Fundamental duties can be directly enforced by the courts. Which of the following statements are correct? Look at the 43rd question very carefully. The Supreme Court of India included fundamental duties as part of the basic structure of the Constitution in the Keshavanand Bharati case. Keshavanand Bharati case came in 1973 and fundamental duties are incorporated in 1976. The first statement is incorrect. And with respect to the second statement, fundamental duties can be directly enforced by the courts. Fundamental duties can be enforced by the act of legislation, not through courts. So, neither 1 nor 2 is the appropriate answer. So, hence the choice D. Identify correct statements for the following. Andhra was the first state to be formed on linguistic basis. JVP committee recommended the creation of linguistic states. Post-independent India, there was a demand for creation of linguistic states. First committee which was constituted to redraw the state boundaries, territories based on linguistic identities was SK committee, which refuted this idea. Then JVP committee was constituted, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and Pattabhi Sitaramaya committee, JVP, which also negated the idea of linguistic reorganization of states. Subsequently, Fazal Ali commission was constituted to examine at the larger context in terms of the territorial division of states. Even Fazal Ali commission, though it is wrongly identified as linguistic reorganization of states, it never promoted linguistic reorganization of state. In fact, Fazal Ali commission supported territorial division of states based on administrative convenience. Hence, the first option, the first choice is only 1, that is 44, answer A. 45th, consider the following statements regarding the National Human Rights Commission. It is a statutory body established under the legislation enacted with the Parliament. Of course, it is a statutory body. The chairman of the commission can be any judge of the Supreme Court. No. The chairman of the commission can be a retired Chief Justice of India or the incumbent Chief Justice of India. So, second statement is incorrect. It has the power to punish violators of human rights. With respect to 45A, it is only advisory. It cannot directly initiate action. Hence, the only choice what we have is, it is a statutory body established under the legislation enacted by the Parliament. In fact, it is created through an ordinance. Subsequently, NHRC assumed a statutory status by the enactment of the Parliamentary Act. The third schedule of the Constitution contains forms of oath or affirmation for the President of India, the Governor of States, the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Controller and Auditor General of India. Here we have a separate oath of office for President of India under Article 60. We have separate oath of office for the Governor under Article 159. Speaker and Deputy Speaker elections is conducted through the Parliament. Hence, the right choice would be Controller and Auditor General of India. That is answer 46th answer D. 47th question, which of the following is correct? Is a correct statement regarding fundamental duties. Parliament is free to enforce fundamental duties by suitable legislations. Fundamental duties can be amended by a simple majority of two houses of the parliament outside the scope of Article 368. This is incorrect. Non-performance of fundamental duties would invite penalty of punishment. To provide early childhood care and education for all children under the until the complete 6 years is a fundamental duty added by the 86th constitutional amendment. This is also incorrect. The only correct answer for 47th question remain answer A. Parliament is free to enforce fundamental duties by suitable legislation, because fundamental duties can be amended but only through a special majority, and non-performance, they are non-justiciable, so that does not enact any penalty. Arrange the following states in the chronological order of their formation: Mizoram, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Nagaland. And for this, the correct sequence is Nagaland was constituted in 1963. Thereafter, Mizoram, Himachal Pradesh was constituted in 1970. Mizoram, from a UT, it has acquired state status in 1987, and finally Uttarakhand, along with Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, was formed in 2000. Consider the following statements regarding the National Human Rights Commission. The chairman and members of the NHRC are appointed by the President. The chairman and members of the NHRC hold office for a term of 5 years or until they attain the age of 70, whichever is earlier. NHRC can suo motu inquire into any violation of human rights. Among this, which is the right answer? Because the chairman and members of the NHRC are appointed by the President. This is true. The chairman and members of the NHRC hold office for a period of 70 years or until 5 years or until they attain the age of 70 years. This is also true. NHRC can suo motu take cases. Suo motu means on its own, based on any paper statement, it can take the cases. Hence, all three are correct. The right choice is D. Which of the following languages is not present in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution? Nepali, Sanskrit, Dongri, English. We don't find English as part of the Schedule 8 of the Constitution. Consider the following statements. Verma Committee identified legal provisions for implementation of some of the fundamental rights. Verma Committee identified legal provisions for implementation of fundamental rights. It is not true. Swaran Singh Committee suggested the incorporation of fundamental duties in the Constitution. Which of the following statement is correct? The only correct statement with respect to question 51 is Swaran Singh Committee suggested the incorporation of duties in the Constitution, because Verma Committee suggested inclusion of 11th duty, not fundamental rights. Identify the correct statement from the following. Article 3 empowers the Parliament to recognize states without the consent of states affected by such reorganization. Reorganize states without the consent of states by such reorganization. The Parliament has used these powers only to reorganize states only when there is a demand for such reorganization. Here, the choice would be, when you look at the reorganization state, when the state is created under Article 3, the presidential consent is sought. President sends a consent to the respective state, but the consent of the state is not binding. So Article 3 empowers the Parliament to reorganize states without the consent of the states affected by such reorganization. Consent is sought, but this consent is not binding. So irrespective of the consent, even if the state does not give its consent, the Parliament can assume that the state has given the consent and it can go ahead with the creation or with the reorganization of the state. So 52nd answer, if you examine very closely, the Parliament has used these powers only to reorganize states only when there is a demand for such reorganization. Both the statements appear true. So with the consent or without the consent, the Parliament can enact the Reorganization of States Act. The 53 question deals with the Central Information Commission is appointed by President on the recommendation of a committee. Who among the following are the members of the committee? The Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition in Lok Sabha, Union Cabinet Minister nominated by the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha. The incorrect choice is the Leader of Opposition in the Central Commission. Information Commission is appointed by President on the recommendation of a committee. Who among the following are the members of the committee? The Prime Minister, he is the member. The Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, he is the member. And Union Cabinet Minister nominated by Prime Minister, he is also a member. Hence 1, 2, 3 is the right choice. The ideal of justice, social, political and economic has been taken from the Russian Constitution, because USA deals with liberty. Liberty is primary to all the Western societies. And Irish Constitution, it spoke about the directive principles of state policy, whereas French Revolution promoted liberty, equality and fraternity, and the Russian Revolution promoted the concept of equality or social justice. So 54, the right choice is C. 55, the Prevention of Insults to National Honor Act prevents disrespect to the Constitution of India, the national flag and the national anthem. The Protection of Civil Rights Act provides for the punishment for offences related to caste and religion. The Representation of Peoples Act provides for the disqualification of members of the Parliament or a state legislature for indulging in corrupt practices, that is soliciting votes on the ground of religion or promoting enmity between different sections of people on grounds of caste, race, language, religion and so on. The Forest Conservation Act of 1980 checks indiscriminate deforestation and diversion of forest land for non-forest purposes. And among this, select the correct statement. And with respect to 55, the answer is all 1, 2, 3, 4, because the prevention of insults to national honor prevents is prohibited, because now we cannot even celebrate by using the national flags, which can be thrown out. So respecting national flag, respecting national anthem is something which is recognized as part of our fundamental duties, and also to protect the national honor. Second, protection of civil rights aims at eradicating untouchability, which is a practice as in terms of rigid caste structure, caste hierarchy, as well as the religion. The Representation of Peoples Act provides disqualification of members of parliament or state legislatures for indulging in corrupt practices. This is what has happened with respect to Indira Gandhi, where for electoral malpractices, her election was nullified by the Allahabad High Court. That is soliciting votes on the ground of religion or promoting enmity between different parts. So as long as religion is not, as far as elections are concerned, we cannot seek votes on the basis of religion, but Justice Verma, in his single bed judgment, he equated Hindutva as a way of life, and he said people can seek votes based on Hindutva because it is not considered as part of religion but as a way of life. Hence, anyone seeking votes other than Hindutva, they are liable to be disqualified. Then the Forest Act of 1980 checks indiscriminate deforestation and diversion of forest land for non-forest purposes. So all 4 are true. 56th question. Following are the statements regarding the acquisition of citizenship in India. To become a naturalized citizen, a person should have adequate knowledge of any of the official languages specified in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. This is in fact a true statement. A person married to an Indian citizen becomes eligible for citizenship if he is an ordinarily resident of India for 7 years. Both the statements are true, hence the right choice is C. With reference to the Union Public Service Commission, consider the following statements. The members of UPSC are eligible for a second term except for the chairman. This is a true statement. Chairman is prohibited from re-election. The appointment of members of UPSC is done by the President of India. This is also true. The removal of UPSC chairman is similar to that of Judge of Supreme Court. Consider the following statements. Which of the statements given below are correct? Here 1 and 2 are correct, because removal of UPSC chairman is not similar to the judge of Supreme Court, but he can be removed on an inquiry by the Supreme Court on two categories. One is proven misbehavior and the second is incapacity to work. These are the two grounds on which an inquiry can be constituted. Based on the report, they can be removed. It is not similar to that of the judge of Supreme Court. So 1 and 2 are the correct statements. Which of the following statements regarding the preamble of the Indian Constitution is correct? According to the Berubari case, preamble is part of the Indian Constitution. This is incorrect because Berubari case in fact recognized preamble as not part of the Constitution or not integral to the Constitution. Provisions of the preamble are not enforceable in courts of law. This is true. The preamble is a source of power to the legislation. This is true. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, 3 new words, socialist, secular, integrity, are added to the preamble. This is also true. So the right answer for 50th question is provisions of the preamble are not enforceable in court of law. It can be. 59th question. So the right answer for 58 is B. 59th question, correct the following statements with regard to fundamental duties. The framers of the Indian Constitution incorporated fundamental duties to promote the feeling of fraternity among the citizens. This is true. The fundamental duties are added in part 4 of the Constitution. This is wrong. Fundamental duties are added to the part 4A of the Constitution. So only one is right. So the answer is A. Article 13 declares that all laws that are inconsistent with or in derogation of any of the fundamental rights shall be void. Which among the following laws can be challenged in court as violating fundamental rights? Ordinance issued by the President or the State Governor, delegated legislation, constitutional amendment. All 3 are valid. So question 59 and question 60, the answer is all 3, because under the definition of state, it has included the 3 organs of the government, the union government, the state government and the local body governments. Hence, the ordinances passed by President are also part of infringement of fundamental rights. The delegated legislation, that is the legislation enacted by the bureaucracy or the executive, this is also part of the infringement of fundamental rights process, and constitutional amendment, that is laws enacted by the parliament, is also part of this. So all 3 are part of Article 13 where the Supreme Court can exercise its power to declare null and void to protect and safeguard the fundamental rights. Consider the following statements with respect to the Union Public Service Commission. The UPSC is not consulted while making reservation of appointments of posts in favor of any backward class of citizens. This is true. The UPSC is not consulted while taking into account consideration the claims of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in making appointments to services and posts. This is also true. So 61, in fact, the answer is statement 1 and 2 are correct. With respect to 62 question, which of the following articles are related to children? Article 39, Article 45, Article 21A, Article 51A. In fact, all these articles deal with the upliftment of children. Article 39, it talks about the welfare of the society, which also includes the children. Article 45 specifically talks about early childhood care. Article 21A, which provides right to education as a universal elementary education as a fundamental right to the children under the age group of 6 to 14. And Article 51A also incorporates the duty on the part of the parent and the guardian to send the children in the age group of 6 to 14 to school. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the right answer. Consider the following statements with regard to fundamental duties. They cannot be used by the courts to determine the constitutionality of a law. They can be enforced by the parliament through legislation. They cannot be used by the courts to determine the constitutionality of a law because they are non-justiciable and non-enforceable. They can be enforced by the parliament through legislation. Parliament has got absolute power. Parliament can create legislation to make the fundamental duties enforceable. So both the answer to this question is 2 only. They cannot be used by the courts to determine the constitutionality of a law. This is incorrect. So the right answer would be they can be enforced by the parliament through legislation, because now the courts post Keshav and Bharti, they are examining the validity in terms of fundamentality. It is not just fundamental rights. They are also examining the validity of the laws enacted in terms of fundamental duties. They are not just duties. They are recognized as fundamental. So when you say fundamental, whether in terms of rights or duties, they acquire that significance through which the court validates and examines the laws enacted in relation to the fundamentality, that is the fundamental nature. So fundamental nature of whether rights or fundamental nature of duties. So every law enacted is evaluated based on this fundamentality or fundamental nature. This is how it has recognized. Hence, statement 1 is wrong, statement 2 is right. The answer is option B. Identify the fundamental rights which are available only to the citizens. Freedom of conscience and propagation of religion, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases, right to elementary education, rights under Article 19. For this, only 4, right to elementary education is available to the citizens alone. Freedom of conscience and propagation of religion is applicable to both citizens as well as the foreigners. Protection against arrest and detention in certain cases, this is also extended to both citizens and foreigners. Rights under Article 19, this is also extended to both citizens. The fundamental rights under 15, 16, 19 and 30 are available only to the citizens of India. So the answer would be only 4. Consider the following. Statements regarding Central Bureau of Investigation. The CBI was established on the recommendation of Santanam Committee on Prevention of Corruption. This is true. The CBI is a statutory body. This is also true. The CBI can investigate cases relating to serious crimes having national and international ramifications. This is also true. And CBI statutory body is incorrect. So the option would be, in terms of the consider the following statements regarding Central Bureau of Investigation, the option would be 1 and 3, that is answer A. The President of India may direct that an Act of Parliament does not apply to tribal areas with respect to which of the following states? For Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram. Choose the correct option. We have Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Tribal areas as autonomous districts are present in the 6th schedule of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. So not Nagaland. The Governor of Assam may likewise direct that an Act of Parliament does not apply to a tribal area in the state or apply with specified modification exceptions. The President enjoys the same power with respect to tribal areas in Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. So the right answer with respect to 66 is C, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3 and 5. Which of the following democratic constitutions contain a list of duties of citizens? Japanese constitution has included duties of the citizen. USA does not believe in duties. It only believes in the expansion of the rights. UK, similarly, it is also based on liberal democracy. So it promotes rights. Germany is also part of liberal democracy. So it also promotes rights. Japan also is founded on liberal democracy, but Japan is a conservative community. So hence, it looks towards promotion of duties along with rights. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India is a result of the rights of individuals. No civil or criminal proceedings can be instituted against the governor of a state under any circumstances. Governors are exempted from criminal proceedings. So statement 2 is incorrect. The Constitution of India, consider the following. The Constitution of India is the result of rights of individual. Identify the incorrect statement. It is not the rise of rights of individuals. It is the rise of national freedom struggle movement. No civil or criminal proceedings, because Only criminal proceedings cannot be instituted against the governor of a state under any circumstances. Hence, both 1 and 2 are incorrect. Consider the following statements with reference to Controller and Auditor General of India. He conducts the audit of expenditure on behalf of the Parliament. He is the compiler of accounts of centre and states. He submits the audit report to the President. Among the 3 given statements, he used to perform all 3, but post 1972, the compiling of accounts is not part of the KAG functions. So he only performs audit functions. So he conducts the audit of expenditure on behalf of the Parliament. He does not maintain accounts any longer, and he submits the audit report to the President. Hence 1 and 3 are true. So 69 answer is D. Which of the following is a member of the Governing Council of Niti Aayog? Lieutenant Governor of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Administrator of Lakshadweep, and none of the above. As far as the Governing Council of Niti Aayog is concerned, it has recognized the Lieutenant Governor of Andaman and Nicobar. Hence, the answer is A. Consider the following statements. Article 368 of the Constitution deals with the power of Parliament to amend the Constitution and its procedures. Part 21 of the Constitution is related to the amendment of the Constitution. Statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is incorrect. Part 20 of the Constitution deals with the amendment of the Constitution. Hence, the answer is for 71A. Consider the following statement. Only the Parliament can make laws prescribing punishment for those acts that are declared offences under the fundamental rights. Only the Parliament can make laws prescribing punishment for those acts that are declared offences under the fundamental rights. Article 35 exclusively provides this power to the Parliament. The Parliament can empower courts other than the Supreme Court and the High Courts to issue writs. Writs cannot be issued against the actions of private individuals. Identify incorrect statements. With respect to 72 question, consider the following statements. Only the Parliament can make laws prescribing punishments for those acts that are declared offences under the fundamental rights. Incorrect. Of course, it is correct. The Parliament can empower courts other than Supreme Court and High Court to issue writs. This is also correct. Writs cannot be issued against the actions of private individuals. This is incorrect because habeas corpus can be moved against private individuals. So the answer is C. Who is referred to as a guardian of the public purse in India? Among the given options, this is a very straightforward question. It is the Controller and Auditor General of India. Though the CAG does not have controller functions, he exercises only audit functions, but the office of CAG is recognized as a guardian of the public purse in India. As per the constitutional provision, under Article 244 of the Constitution, the scheduled areas have been declared in which of the following states? Choose the correct option. Under Article 244, the provision of the 5th schedule shall apply to the administration and control of the scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in any state other than the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. So Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram are excluded, and at present scheduled areas have been declared in the states of Andhra Pradesh, including Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha and Rajasthan. So the right answer is Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, 1, 2, 3. Consider the following. So answer is 1, 2, 3. That is Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, 74B. Consider the following. An amendment to the Constitution can be initiated only in either House of Parliament and not in state legislature. This is true. For amendment to the Constitution, a bill must be passed by special majority in both the Parliament and state legislatures. In state legislature, it is simple majority. So statement 2 is wrong. For as far as 75th question is concerned, the answer is 1. Second statement is also valid for ratification of states, but ratification does not need special majority. Ratification needs simple majority. 76th question deals with Nagaraj case is related to the right to freedom of speech, reservation and promotion for SC/STs, right to property, or none of the above. 76th question deals with Nagaraj case which specifically deals with the reservation in promotion for SC and STs. Which among the following are non-constitutional bodies? Law Commission of India, it's a non-constitutional body. National Human Rights Commission, it's a non-constitutional body. National Commission for Scheduled Castes, this is a constitutional body. So among the given choice, select the correct answer using the code below. Which of the among the following are non-constitutional? So only 1 and 2 are the non-constitutional, hence B. Which of the following is designated as a national nodal agency to coordinate matters related to cyber security incident in the country? National Cyber Coordination Center, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, and none of the above. The answer to this 78th question is the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team to investigate the cyber security incidents. Select the correct answer. Bill to amend the Constitution under Article 368 can be introduced only by a minister in either house of the Parliament. Bill to amend the Constitution under Article 368 requires prior permission of the President? No. Bill to amend the Constitution under Article 368 can be introduced only in Lok Sabha? No. The President has no veto power in respect of Constitutional Amendment Bill. This is also no. The correct answer for 79 is answer D. The procedure of the amendment of the Constitution as laid down in Article 368. An amendment of the Constitution can be initiated only by the introduction of a bill for the purpose in either house of Parliament and not in the state legislature. The bill can be introduced either by a minister or by a private member and does not require prior permission of the state President. So the answer is D. Identify correct statements from the following. The makers of the Indian Constitution preferred the doctrine of procedure established by law rather than the due process of law doctrine. The makers of the Indian Constitution preferred. The Constitution Assembly preferred procedure established by law, which is incorporated from Japanese Constitution, over due process clause, which is part of the American Constitution. Procedure established by law means that a law that is duly enacted by the legislature or the concerned body is valid if it has followed the correct procedure. Identify the correct statement. With respect to answer question 30, the answer is both 1 and 2, because the Constitution main Assembly wanted procedure established by law rather than due process clause, and the procedure established by law means that a law that is duly enacted by the legislature or concerned body is valid if it has followed the procedure. That means the judiciary has to follow the laws enacted by the Parliament in delivering of justice. So both 1 and 2 are valid. So hence the right choice is C. With reference to Finance Commission, consider the following statements. Finance Commission is a judicial body, it is a quasi-judicial body. The members of the Commission are appointed by the Cabinet. The members of the Commission are appointed by the President. Once appointed to the Commission, they are not eligible for reappointment for the same. With respect to 81, none of the above. All three statements are incorrect. Because Finance Commission is a quasi-judicial body, the members of the Commission are not appointed by the Cabinet, by the President. Once appointed to the Commission, they are re-eligible. Which of the following is considered as a public authority under Right to Information Act? The Supreme Court, the High Court, the National Political Party, and none of the above. Here, RTI does not apply to political parties, RTI does not apply to judiciary. So the only choice what we have left out with none, because judiciary does not come under public authority because they are the adjudicators of justice. They are not the people. They are not the people to implement it, and political parties considered them the waiver from RTI because they said they are not part of the public authority. So the choice is None. Which of the following are correctly matched with respect to the Indian Constitution? Article 368, amendment to the Constitution. True. Article 51A, fundamental duties. True. Part 3, fundamental rights. True. Article 1, name and territory of the Union. That is true. So right choice for question number 83 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Option C. Which of the following rights is not included in the right to freedom? Right to telecast, right to assemble peaceably without arms, right to settle in any part of India, right to travel abroad. Right to travel abroad is part of Article 21. Hence, with respect to 84, the right to settle in any part of India, which of the following rights is not included in the right to freedom? In the right to freedom, right to settle in any part of India is a part of the Article 19. Right to assemble peacefully is part of Article 19. Right to telecast is also part of right to expression, Article 19. Right to travel abroad is part of Article 21. Hence, the right answer is D. Which is the chairman of the recently appointed 15th Finance Commission? Among the given options, Bimal Jalal, Nand Kishore Singh, Shaktikant Das, Ashok Lahiri, it is N.K. Singh, Nand Kishore Singh. Which of the following are dedicated funds established under NABARD for agriculture and rural development? Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, Long-Term Irrigation Fund, Micro Irrigation Fund, Producers Organization Development Fund. With respect to question number 86, Rural Infrastructure Development Fund is part of NABARD. Long-term irrigation fund is also part of NABARD. Micro irrigation fund is also part of NABARD. And Producers Organization Development Fund, which is recently introduced 4 years back, is also part of NABARD. So the answer is all. Select the correct statement. President can summon both the houses of parliament to meet in joint sitting to resolve the deadlock over the passage of constitutional amendment bill under Article 368. Article 368, they cannot have a joint sitting of parliament. Constitutional amendment bill has to be necessarily passed independently by both the houses. The first statement is wrong. President can withhold his assent to the constitutional amendment bill under Article 368. He cannot withhold according to the Article 42nd Constitutional Amendment. The President has to necessarily give his assent. Constitutional Amendment Bill, Article 368 can amend the federal provision of the Constitution. This is part of the basic structure. Federal character of the Constitution is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. So among the choices given, select the correct statements. With respect to 87, the choice is D, 3 and 4. Because Constitution Amendment Bill under 368 can amend federal provision of the Constitution. Federal character of the Constitution is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Both the statements are true and both the first and 2 are false. This is something to do with the logical reasoning. Here we have 2 statements, one assertion and the reasoning. Agencies of the United Nations enjoy diplomatic immunity. This is a true statement. Members of the World Trade Organizations have diplomatic immunity. This is also a true statement, but there is no relationship between the two. So A and R are true and R does not explain A. With reference to the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, Scheduled Castes, consider the following statements. The members are appointed by the President by warrant under his hand and seal. The recommendation of the Commission are binding on the government. The Commission has the power of a civil court trying a suit. With respect to 89, the answer is 1 and 3. The recommendation of the Commission are advisory. Ninetieth question. India's first freight village is being developed in which of the following place? We have choices given under Kolkata, Varanasi, Chennai and Surat, and the right choice with respect to question number 90 is Varanasi. Consider the following statements. If the Constitutional Amendment Bill under Article 368, Bill seeks to amend the federal provision of the Constitution, it must be ratified by the legislature of half of the states by a special majority. This is incorrect, simple majority. For amendment to the constitution, a bill must be passed by 2/3 majority of the total membership of the house. Which of the following statements are incorrect? With respect to 91, if the constitutional amendment bill seeks to amend the federal provision of the constitution, it must also be ratified by the legislatures of half of the states by a simple majority. So the first statement is wrong. The constitutional amendment bill must be passed in each of the special house by a special majority, that is a majority more than 50% of the total membership of the house and a majority of 2/3 of the members of the house present and voting. So in this case, the answer is neither one nor two. 92nd, we have two statements. Try to develop a relationship between them. Rule of law is embodied under Article 14 of the Constitution. This is in fact true. Rule of law is expressed through equality before law and equal protection of law. And reason, the assertion A and our reason are, members of parliament shall not be liable in any court proceedings with respect to anything said in the parliament. This is also true. So with respect to 92, A and R true, but R does not explain A. Which of the following functions are done by the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes? Inquiry into specific complaints with respect to deprivation of rights and safeguards of the Scheduled Tribes, measures for implementation of the provisions of PESA Act, and measures to confer ownership rights with respect to minor forest produce to STs living in forest areas. As far as this question is concerned, all three are correct statements, 1, 2 and 3. Trilateral naval exercise Malabar 2008 was held between India, Japan, Australia, Japan, Australia, USA, India, Japan, USA, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives. The right choice is India, Japan and United States of America. Article and the option is C. Consider the following. The Constitution of India is rigid in nature. A rigid constitution is one that requires special procedure for its amendment. The Indian Constitution is not rigid. The rigid constitution is one that requires special procedure for its amendment. The second statement is true. So which of the statements given is correct? The answer for 95th question is B, 2 only. Which of the following is applicable both against the states, against the actions of the state and those of the private individuals? Which of the following is applicable both against the actions of the state and those of the private individual? Right to freedom, abolition of untouchability, right to public employment, right to religious freedom. Among the given choice, abolition of untouchability is applicable both against the state as well as against the private individuals. With reference to Lokpal, consider the following statements. The selection committee includes the Prime Minister and the Chief Justice of India. The jurisdiction of Lokpal includes the Prime Minister and members of Parliament. Lokpal was created by amendment to the Constitution. Which among the following given are incorrect? As far as 97 is concerned, the selection committee includes the Prime Minister and Chief Justice of India. Selection committee includes Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India and other judges nominated by the Chief Justice. So this is partly true, so it is not correct. The jurisdiction of Lokpal includes the Prime Minister and members of Parliament. The jurisdiction includes Prime Minister and members of Parliament. Lokpal was created by an amendment to the Constitution. The Lokpal is created through a statutory act as an ordinary bill. So the option to 97th question is B. One and two only. Composite Water Management Index was released by which of the following organizations? Central Water Commission, Niti Aayog, Center for Science and Environment, IIT Roorkee. The answer is 98B. The Niti Aayog launched Composite Water Management Index as useful tool to assess and improve performance in efficient management of water resources. The index aims to inspire states, union territories towards efficient and optimal utilization of water and recycling thereof with sense of urgency. Which of the following is not correct? The power to initiate an amendment to the Constitution lies only with the centre. The power to initiate an amendment to the Constitution lies only with the centre. This is true. Constituent powers of Parliament is absolute. Bill to amend the Constitution under Article 368 can be introduced in either house of the Parliament. This is also true. The bill to amend the constitution can be introduced by a private member. This is also true. So here the only option what we have is the constituent power of parliament is absolute. The constituent power of parliament is limited by the Supreme Court. So limited by the basic structure doctrine. Which of the following committees was tasked with the identification of creamy layer? Here the answer is Ramanandan Committee, which was constituted to examine the creamy layer among the OBCs, and the OBCs actually the commission was created based on the Supreme Court judgment in terms of Indira Sahani case. Thank you.